Welcome to the April 19th regular Village Board meeting of the Board of Trustees. This meeting is now called to order. We'll begin with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, Republic, one nation, God.
Trustee Codman,
Present.
Trustee Levin, Trustee Bazemore,
Present.
Trustee Gazada,
Present.
Mayor Garrity.
Present.
We'll move into mayor's and trustees' announcements.
I guess I'll just start with a thank you to the community for coming out. There were so many people who braved the sprinkles and the somewhat chilly, damp weather we had this evening to take a walk around the roundabout design. And Peter Rosillo joined us, who's a design engineer, and Paul addressed a lot of the questions that folks had, and we got to see exactly where the parameters of it would be, and it was a pretty interesting evening. And so I thank everybody who came out and got to sort of, as Paul would say, wrap their arms around the idea, understand it in a first-hand way, and then also continue the ongoing conversation about questions related to the roundabout. And I also, on a separate note, want to thank folks who applied to be part of the Downtown Redevelopment Committee. We have a really big task in front of us, which is to whittle down a pile of applications to just about 15 participants from the community. And we don't want to get any committee that's more than 20 is pretty unwieldy and isn't going to be able to accomplish something. And it's a really exciting mission, which is, it's not a should we or shouldn't we do the roundabout. It's whether or not we do the roundabout. We are in a moment right now where we could have some really exciting redevelopment in our downtown and look to a future for Ossining that could be pretty spectacular. There's been a long path to get us here, and urban renewal over 40 years ago took down buildings that were expected to be replaced right away, and they weren't. But that means that it's up to our generation to figure out what will be there for a future generation. So we're really grateful that so many people in this community care so deeply about Ossining that they don't just want to talk about it and complain about it. They want to be part of planning what that's going to look like. And I'm just sorry that that there aren't more spots on this committee, so we'll have to find some more ongoing ways for people to be instrumental in this process. I sort of look forward to having the conversation the board will be having in executive session later on tonight as we cull through all of the applicants. And it was a really exciting response from across the community. And the only other thing I'll mention is if you don't already have it on your calendar, it's Earth Day this week. And this Saturday is, in fact, Earth Day, and I hope that I will see you down at the waterfront from 11 to 4 for live music, terrific food, lots of vendors and activities. It's a terrific day for people of all ages. This year's theme is about food sustainability in our land. And then tied into that this week is also the documentary and discussion series Choice, which is A Fierce Green Fire, which is a film about activism. It focuses on some environmental activisms movements as case studies, but then the conversation will really be more broadly about activism and how folks can really be successful and gain some momentum, and how people who want to make a difference can really be effective. So I hope you will join us. That's this Thursday at 6:30 at the Ossining Public Library, the documentary discussion series. And you can go to ossiningdocumentaries.org for more information about that. And then once again, Saturday at Lewis Engle Park. Any friends who live on the train line can just come up on the train and join you here. At the Ossining Waterfront is the Earth Day Festival. It is the largest Earth Day celebration of its kind in Westchester County. We're very proud to have it, and are really fortunate to have Green Ossining take that on every year. Anyone else?
Want to remind everybody, after you've celebrated the Earth on Saturday during the day, in the evening, there's some great live music, some blues at the Ossining Elks Lodge, the Blue Rays. We'll start at 7:30, first set, $10 at the door. All the proceeds go to the band. I think it'll be a great time. It's a great venue, and Hope to see you all there. That's 7:30, Saturday night, the Elks Lodge, the Blue Rays. Thanks.
I just wanted to add on to the Earth Day celebration. I see John Selsman is here, who is on the Downtown Economic Development Fund Council. We are rolling out a great new program. Some of you may have been going through the downtown, seeing that some lights have been on from a beautification project. But another project that was approved and the council has been working on with a project manager, Omar Herrera, is that we're also going to be redoing the wells, the tree wells, and looking for sponsors. And so on Saturday, I'm going to call it a soft launch, and we're going to give people the opportunity to sign up as founding sponsors to sponsor the wells for a year or 2 years. And John, just remind me, which tent are we on, which table are we on? Do you remember? The green ossining table. We're going to be sharing some space at the last minute. I think they were gracious enough to give us some room. We'll have some more information. So we know we already have one signed up as a sponsor, but we're going to be looking for 45 trees to start with.
How much is that?
That's part of our launch. No, the founding, the founding sponsor, if you will, is $249 for the 2 years. Take care with a plaque and a sign with either your organization's name, but there'll be more information. I just wanted to give that a shout out so people look for us since it's so new, and I think it's a great project.
So just a reminder, this Sunday, the village will be hosting the Housing Austin Community Celebration. There will be an update about our housing needs assessment that we've undertaken with Kevin Dorka, and there'll be an interactive workshop. So you can come to that at the Austin Community Center at 95 Broadway, and it's from 12 to 3 this Sunday.
And it's, you don't need to stay for the full 3 hours,
No,
right?
no. So it's 12 to 3. It's a walk-in. It's basically a drop-in. So if you stay there for a half an hour, you will get the whole full effect.
Great. And it is quite an exciting weekend. I would be remiss if I didn't, were you going to mention anything? You want to do the Miguel thing? The New York State
I
thing?
was going to do something else.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll do this one, and then I'll turn it back over to you. So New York State is about to have a birthday. Their birthday is actually this Saturday, but because the Earth Day Festival is such a big deal here, on Sunday, that way you can totally fill your weekend with exciting events here in the village. New York State will turn 240 years old, and Miguel Hernandez has organized a celebration for that. So we're going to have the Happy Birthday New York show, which will take place this Sunday at 2 p.m. at Market Square. In case of rain, the venue will move to Trinity Episcopal Church. So we look forward to celebrating New York State and our from being 240 years old. I know I'll be there. I think a number of other folks in the room will be here, as well as other elected officials from different levels of government, and the Mattatuck Drum Band. So please join us 2 o'clock on Sunday at Market Square. Danny?
Yeah, so I think John forgot to mention this one. Is the Austin Historic Cemetery Conservancy. It's going to be they're going to be doing a workshop for grave cleaning and restoration at Dell Cemetery. Is also on Saturday. This one is from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, so it is open to all ages, and actually students from high school and middle school, I guess they can earn some community service credits as well. So it's a pretty cool program to be there. So join us as well, and we have a few hours to spare on a Saturday. Thank you.
Okay. I think our calendars are full now.
Okay, we'll move into administrative reports. Interim Village Manager Paul Frioli.
Thank you, Anne Marie. We have the department heads with us this evening. They'll be recording. I'm happy when they do that. It gives the public a very insightful look into what they do on the day-to-day. I have two agenda items that I'd like to build on a little bit tonight. The first is J, which is the transfer of some monies to represent the savings in the 2016 NYPA bill for our LED street lighting program. Last night I attended the town meeting to give a little recap, and I'd like to do the same thing here with regard to where we are with that program right now. If you remember, we did used the same contractor to implement that work in both the town and village. And although there's been some administrative delay with the project, I think we're getting back on track again in the town and the village to pick up on some of the installation work that's not done and some of the restoration and repair work that's needed on some of the existing fixtures before they can put the new fixtures there. But I wanted to tell you that the derivative of that $83,000 that's reflected in Tom's resolution, I think he's going to go into a little more detail in his presentation. But as far as the streetlights go, this project in the village consisted of 1,385 LED replacements, whether it was a Cobra head or decorative. Now, we haven't converted all the decoratives yet, and they're still on order and being delivered, and when they come in, we're going to commence with that again as we break into the appropriate weather. The thing to note here is that we haven't made any payment yet either. So we've recouped this year and last year's documented savings already, and now we're putting that towards the electricity and the capital project. So we're offsetting the cost of the project already before we even enter that debt service structure, which we referenced earlier in our 7-year payoff for the full replacement. The 1385 is also getting absorbed in that it is in excess of almost 200 additional fixtures that we decided to put in, either because they weren't on the NYPA database and we added them, or we added a new fixture along the way where we didn't have one before, where folks brought it to our attention once we realized that we were embarking on this project, or we just didn't have a record of it anywhere, but it actually existed out there. So this really trues up the entire NYPA database. And remember the key point here, and it's even more key now that NYPA has petitioned the Public Service Commission to increase their bills last year. I think that was in the paper. That's going to start to take place this year, I believe, with the cents per kilowatt. So every time they increase that kilowatt charge to us, it really expands the level of savings that we see, because if you remember, our bills are not metered. They're estimated usages based on the daylight in this area of the country, and the wattage and the kilowatt draw from each of those fixtures. So because that's how the bills are derived, we want to keep the estimated on time and the kilowatts drawn from each fixture as low as possible to offset the cents per kilowatt that is inevitably going to increase as NYPA looks to maintain, quite frankly, their bottom line in the face of these environmental efficiency efforts that are starting to take place by the municipalities. So I think we're ahead of the game there, and I'm happy to report that. Secondly, on Resolution M, I appreciate you allowing me to interject that into the work session last week, and these are the vehicles that we look to put into auction. This will be, I think, my 4th vehicle auction that we accomplished when we do this one. The money comes back in from the auction, and then it gets dispersed into the vehicle maintenance accounts of the respective departments, depending on which department used the vehicle before it was declared surplus. And as I said again in the work session, most of those vehicles are approximately 15 years old and beyond their useful life and repair, with the exception of the one 2013 Chevrolet that was involved in an accident and declared a total loss. The other thing, because we're going to talk about capital budgets and finance a little bit with Tom, and some balances that remained last year, I want to talk about where some of that savings was and where we look to spend some of it next year, because there has been a lot of calls that have come into my office and the DPW office with respect to the condition of the roads in the village of Ossining. Unfortunately, I am as frustrated as some of the callers that call the office, in that a lot of the work necessary out there isn't to be done by the village. It's to be done by utility companies, more specifically Con Ed, and it's in one of the more obvious and traveled areas is on a state road. So I've been more or less calling and contacting Con Ed and or the state every other day to find out what their restoration plan is on Croton Avenue from out in the town down in through the village. They actually started some of the village restoration for the trench work yesterday. They started up in Snowden, and they were around Sherwood, hoping they segue right into Croton Avenue from there. But with that in mind, I want to tell you what the village's intent is with regard to some road restoration and rehabilitation work. Next work session, I hope to bring forth the results of the annual bid contractors. This is a 2-year process that we changed a few years back, so we didn't have to do annual bids year after year after year. It became an administratively laden task, and it really had no cost benefit or implication to the contractors. So we made it a 2-year bid, and that 2 years is up. So we bid it a couple of months ago, and the results are in. And I look to bring forth the annual bid contractors and materials to your next work session. In that presentation, it will include the annual bid paving contractor and the annual bid concrete contractor, both of which I intend to use to do restoration on some of the roads in the village that are not going to be restored by Con Ed. Namely, Snowden is definitely going to be restored where the village's component of the work will take place. We're considering Camp Woods, and we're considering Sherman and areas of Croton interface that are not rehabilitated by Con Ed. I don't really want to get into more details than that because it's really going to depend on what we go out there and deem necessary in the road. But to give a understanding of how much certain things cost, I have in front of me the printout from last year on how much money we spent and what it entailed with the roads that we did do. Because we did do a lot of paving last year, and I know sometimes it's hard to see because some of these roads were really in much worse shape than, believe it or not, Croton and Snowden, but they weren't as in such a traveled corridor as Croton and Snowden. Those are two main thoroughfares that people are on every single day to go to the train station or get to the downtown area. But last year, we did do Lower and Upper Eastern. We did the villages and the towns portion of Grandview. We did Meadowbrook Drive from Cedar Lane all the way down to Piping Rock, and including some areas of Piping Rock. We did Pinebrook Drive from Narragansett all the way to Dale, which is the entire cul-de-sac, and Pine Avenue, which is the entire length for that road there. And we also went into Ferris and Park and Narragansett as a large part of that. We also paved the Eastern Avenue parking lot, the police station parking lot, and miscellaneous parking areas. And a little digression, we're just completed today the expansion of the parking area at the operations center to take care of a long-standing issue, which was not enough parking, particularly during more attended planning and zoning board meetings. So that's a nice thing to have. And Superintendent Soy was in the loop in that it also provides for overflow parking for the Upper Vets Field during the weekends. There's no locks associated with it. It's right there next to the field, and it's going to be a nice amenity for the weekends up there too. But all those roads I just referenced there, we didn't just pave. We milled all those roads. And after we milled them, or during the milling process, we also improved and or repaired all the drainage on all those roads. So we are not going in there and just putting an overlay coat of pavement, because if we did do it that way, we'd be back there in 5 to 10 years doing it again. We're doing these roads to go 20 to 30 years without being touched again, with the exception of maintenance and patchwork. And I think you'll find with the roads I just listed there, you'll have just that. Not that I'll be around to testify for it, but I'm sure the roads will be in good condition. But all told, we spent $789,000 on that effort last year. This year, to accomplish the roads that I just referenced, there's a capital project established for 217, which is where we draw the funds, of $480,000. The derivative of that 480 is $230,000 plus or minus that comes from CHIPS every year based on our road inventory. And if you saw the article in the paper with a couple of the senators promoting the monies that came into their districts, that money did come to the village too, like it did last year from the Pave New York program that they started a couple of years back. And we expect, but it's not guaranteed, we're also going to get the I forget what the acronym for, extreme weather monies that come to the local municipalities from the state to offset when you have extreme weather condition. It supplements your CHIPS money, but it's the same revenue stream through that CHIPS programming. So we're going to have close to $500,000 to do restoration work last year, and we're going to come close to over $600,000 because we have some leftover money in the PO from last year that we didn't use, because even though we anticipated doing Snowden Avenue, we didn't because Con Ed wasn't finished with that work yet. But they're finishing up now, and once they finish, we're going to come in and complete that. My last paving comment with regard to Snowden. Believe it or not, I was just contacted by the county a couple of months ago and was invited to attend their pre-construction meeting for the Snowden Avenue siphon removal project, which some of the board members may know. That's a long-standing project that previous boards have been soliciting from Westchester County for over 10 years. It's finally coming to fruition. I attended the pre-bid walkthrough and have been maintaining close contact with the commissioner of that department for some time, and just hung up with his office today. And right now, they plan on putting in their bid document, should it be awarded, restoration paving from Matilda at the county's expense, from Matilda all the way down through the intersection, including to the Snowden Avenue Bridge, back to the road that goes back towards the Varium condos, and down to include the Broadway interchange where Snowden Avenue comes into Broadway and Water Street. So it's not just going to be a patch job where they work. They're going to restore the whole road, and they're going to reconstruct the entire playground in that area when they're done. And they're going to do the parking area adjacent to Snowden Park, all part of their contract. We will have, the give is going to be, we're going to have to give them some mobilization area down in that parking area, so it's going to be a little inconvenient towards the latter part of the summer and into the fall, should they let the project this year. But we will definitely coordinate with Superintendent Soy not to inconvenience any activities down at the park, like ball games, et cetera. And we'll do whatever we have to do to accommodate the county contractor to get that give back, which is a complete road restoration from Matilda all the way down at their expense, which is going to save us significant money that we had allotted for that area and allow us to put it up towards Upper Snowden all the way out to Route 9. I know all the department heads are here this evening to make their presentation, with the exception of Superintendent Soy, and he emailed me about 2 hours ago with his report. So if I could just go out of order, and if it's okay, I'll email it to you when I'm done, but I'd like to read his report now as well.
Okay.
Administrative report from March 16th to April 19th, 2017. Recreational program update. Our annual Extravaganza event, held on Saturday, April 8th, was moved indoors to the community center gym due to wet field conditions and cold temperatures. We facilitated the event twice and were greeted with large groups of attendees for both. We estimated about 1,000 people in total joined us that day. More than 500 bags of eggs were distributed to children in attendance, totaling over 10,000 eggs. We gave away a total of 36 prize baskets to some lucky winners, and the entertainment was provided by the magician David Leviton, with a visit from the Easter Bunny to top it off. Thank you to our recreation staff and park staff for their hard work in putting together this fun and enjoyable spring tradition. Spring program registration began on March 21st. Programs are scheduled to begin this week and next. Many programs are still accepting registrations, so we encourage anyone still interested in one of our spring programs to register as soon as possible, or feel free to contact the Recreation Office at 941-3189 to inquire about program availability. Day camp registration opened on March 22nd, and we continue to accept registrations for all our camp programs. Day camp information can be found on our website or can be picked up at the Recreation Office. Again, please call the Recreation Office with any questions. 941-3189. The new Cedar Lane Arts Center is having its grand opening this Friday, April 21st. Children activities will begin at 4 p.m. with the official ribbon cutting at 6 p.m. All Ossining residents are invited to attend, as we opened a great new facility and event space in Cedar Lane Park. Parks facilities update. Ongoing seasonal spring work in the parks, including park cleanup, opening of facilities and bathrooms, playground play surface replenishment, tennis court preparation, and ball field maintenance. The Community Center Gym Improvement Project began on Monday, April 10th. The gym is currently closed as the work continues. The old gym floor has been removed, and we are taking the next steps towards installation of the new gym flooring. Installation of the new floor is scheduled next week. The final completion date and unveiling of the new gym floor is not finalized, but we anticipate an early May reopening, so stay tuned. Additional programs, events, and project updates. Green Austening's Earth Day will be held on Saturday, April 22nd at Engled Waterfront Park. The event runs from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. and will feature vendors, entertainment, and activities for the whole family to celebrate Earth Day along the banks of the Hudson. Thank you, Chris.
We'll move into Corporation Counsel, Stuart Kahan.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. On tonight's agenda is a proposed local law 2 of 2017, which if adopted would become local law 3 of 2017. The revisions are to numerous chapters of the village code, strengthening the village's code enforcement structure. In preparation for the rollout, Deputy Corporation Counsel Bill Hamilton and I have been meeting with Joe Agostinelli and the members of the code enforcement team to go over what the various sections are, what forms will be required, so that we can get running once the statute becomes official from Albany. Bill Hamilton and I have also, over the past few weeks, been reviewing orders to remedy, known by the acronym OTRs, violations and appearance tickets before they are in fact actually served, so that we can be certain that they have the elements of the various violations necessary so that we can proceed. We've been in communication and spoken with, again, the various code enforcement folks so that we can have a much more uniform sense of those particular documents before they leave the door, making it better for Bill when he prosecutes those matters in the Justice Court. Additionally, with regard to proposed local law 2 of 2017, I anticipate scheduling a meeting with the judges of the town court after approval to go over what those changes are so that they can be familiar with those changes once they go into effect. Additionally, with regard to the proposed changes, we do have the Code Board of Appeals, which is an important group that we are setting up. I would urge, if anyone is interested in becoming a member, that they go to the village's web page, homepage, where you see the hands that are up, and put in the application. We would like to have the Code Board of Appeals up and running when the statute itself becomes effective, so that the two can work hand in hand. I've also been working with the building department to help streamline their response to FOIL requests, which come in on virtually a daily basis, requesting things from brokers and building reports and things like that. We're trying to get responses whereby some of the information can in fact be provided right at the counter. A computer terminal will be set up so that people can get some of that information. If not, we're getting it so that they can get the information in a quicker and more expeditious manner so that they can get to that particular work. On the 10th of April, I was at Sing Sing Prison, not because of my work as Corporation Counsel, with Jerry Faella, as well as other members involved with the Sing Sing River Museum, and the Sing Sing Museum, I'm sorry. We visited the powerhouse, which, if you're interested, is the building that's right next to the county water treatment facility. And we also visited the 1825 cell block, which is actually inside the prison. Both of those locations are to be part of the Sing Sing Museum. I'm working with Jerry on preparing a lease with the Department of Correctional Services, which is necessary so that we can get some necessary funding, particularly from Dormitory Authority of the State of New York. So we're proceeding with that. The powerhouse, if you haven't seen it, is an almost 4-story building, and it's massive. It has a lot of old stuff in there. It will all be cleared out. The 1825 cell block is, as it sounds, it was built in 1825, except for the fact that there's some metal rods in there keeping it up. and will make for a very interesting part of the experience, particularly, as I said, it is within the four walls of the prison. It's actually within the active part of Sing Sing. Other than that, for tonight's agenda, we also have a resolution to permit the interim village manager to execute an agreement with Judd Law Contracting with regard to use of space down at 7 Water Street. That's on, for I think, approximately a 4-month basis. We think that that's important. It allows Judd Law to continue doing some of the work there. We have spoken with the neighbors who are nearby, and they are aware of that situation. We wanted them to know about that before anything was done. There is also a resolution tonight with regard to lead agency status as relates to the intersection project. At last week's work session, I did give a discussion with regard to the seeker process. Joe Tremelli was at that meeting as well. If anyone has any questions, they're certainly welcome to watch the video from that meeting in which the process and the timing is discussed. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Police Chief Kevin Sylvester.
Good evening. Last couple of weeks, we focused most of our energy on, excuse me, school safety issues. We just completed a large evolution of active shooter training at both Claremont's and Brookside School. Significant for us because we were able to train 90 police officers, including every single employee from Ossining, Briarcliff, and Croton police departments. So always great to have an opportunity to train in a great venue with all of our neighboring departments. Because in an event of that scale, we'd be looking for assistance from those people. So it's good to get all of us together and be working on the same page. Last Friday, we were able to complete the Good Friday procession, a sizable procession for St. Anne's. We had between 1,500 and 2,000 people estimated as part of that. That went off without a hitch. We did hear from a few people who were concerned about notification and traffic closures and stuff like that, so we'll be revisiting all of that as events do go on through the year and try and see what we can do to better get the message out ahead of time. But not too much noise from that one. Going forward, we'll be at all of the public events that have already been mentioned tonight. We just ask that everybody keep an eye out for parking signs and any regulations as far as the train station before Earth Day and things like that, so that we can keep things flowing for everybody that's coming to visit those events. Thank you.
Okay, Fire Chief Angelo Manicchio.
Thanks, Anne Marie. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Village Board. So to date, we have 184 calls, 54 coming of those coming in March. I'd like to thank the JCYS Sports for inviting us to participate in the opening day on April 8th. That was an honor for our color guard to lead all the wonderful children down to Vets Park. On April 15th, we had a barn brush garage fire up on Cedar Lane. It was a 4-hour duration, all hands on deck, but the Ossining Fire Department did their job with the help of some of our surrounding community fire departments, so I'd like to thank them also. But everybody went home safe, and we were all set, so nice, almost quiet month. Thank you very much.
Superintendent of Water and Sewers Andrew Teese.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Talk about the reservoir a little bit. We're at a capacity of 5%, so it's a lot of fish in a little area. Last month, we purchased 100% of our water from New York City, and we're currently purchasing our water from New York City. Speaking of the dam project, the Legacy Valve Company is completing the final phase of the construction for the last piece of the dam rehabilitation project. The contractor has completed 100% of the spillway, new raw water intakes, and then a low-level outlet access. We expect substantial completion by the first week of June, and concurrently we're trying to get final approval from the DEC so they'll give us authorization to fill the reservoir. They want to make sure it's safe before we open it up and start filling it. We're moving right along with the design and survey work for the water main replacement projects for Gordon Avenue and the transmission main along 9A. So right now we're doing the survey work, and once the survey work's completed, Charles Megan, our engineering, will put everything on paper, the total design, and they'll go to the health department for their approval. I think I mentioned it last meeting, but Gordon Avenue is scoped to be worked on this year. The 9A work would be next year. we had our conceptual, actually 8th design conceptual meeting for the design of the new water filtration plant today at the Armory. It's, we saw the actual layout of what it's going to look like, and we have to finalize the design, but it's about 25% completed on the design work. Once we get to 30%, we'll meet up with the board in a work session, and so everybody understands where it's going. We completed the filter media replacement of all 5 filters. So it's the existing filters at the filtration plant. We topped off all the media and made sure that we're ready to go for peak flows this summer. So everybody knows the plant's designed for 4 MGD. It can work up to 5 MGD, but in order to work at that level, if we needed it, we need to make sure our filters are 100% ready. I'll add something about the hydrant program where we just started our spring hydrant flushing program this week. It takes about 5 weeks. We're doing it between the hours of 9 at night and 1 in the morning. So that's ongoing. It used to take about 9 weeks to do that program, but since the village has either relined water mains or replaced water mains, it cleans up a lot faster than what it used to. Finally, we're 95% complete with the HVAC SCADA control system for all of our buildings. This will be the last building that needs to be looked at. It'll be for system failure, so we'll be alerted right away. And I think even this year, I know it was a mild year, but I know with the controls that we installed, we definitely conserved fuel this year. It anticipated the outside temperatures, it didn't overheat the buildings, and working like it's supposed to work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sandy.
Treasurer Thomas Warren.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Board of Trustees. On the agenda tonight are 6 fiscal year-end budget modifications as part of the process to close the 2016 accounting records in advance of the financial statement audit that begins this coming Monday. I thank the board for their consideration of these budget modifications, and I've been assured that Anne Marie is going to fly through the resolutions tonight, so don't be scared by the length. Paul had previously talked about Resolution J for the budget modifications for the energy savings. I don't think that I need to touch on it further, other than to just repeat that it's the $83,000 in savings from the LED street lighting budget that's being transferred to the debt service fund for expenditure for the LED luminaires capital project costs. And also, as part of the budget modifications, is a Resolution H authorizing $154,271 to be transferred from the general water and sewer funds to the village's general liability claims fund to help bolster our self-insured cash reserves as recommended by the village's actuary. And last week I had reviewed at the board work session some of the factors that resulted in the significant cost savings for the 2016 fiscal year, including energy savings and salary and employee benefit savings from temporarily vacant positions, new hires at entry-level salaries, and negotiated cost savings. And at the time I did say that tonight I'd be talking about the revenue side of the 26 fiscal activities. Overall, in the general fund, we're showing that actual revenues exceeded the estimates by about $967,000. Some of the reasons for the variances are as follows. First, with real property taxes, one of the exercises we have to go through every year is look at the collections in the first 60 days following fiscal year end and compare them to the first 60 days at the start of the year. And in this case, because of the large amount of collections for prior year taxes and prior year tax liens in the first 60 days of 2017, we actually have an extra $159,000 in revenues to be recognized in 2016. I'd already previously talked to the board about the sales tax distribution revenues of about $34,000 more than what was budgeted, even though the sales tax revenues have continued to be fairly stagnant the past few years because of the lower energy costs and the resulting lower sales tax collected on the energy costs. And we also previously talked about the mortgage tax revenues. This past year, we had about $74,600 in extra mortgage tax distribution revenues above the amount that was budgeted, following a few years of the stagnant mortgage tax revenues. We also received about $60,000 of cable TV franchise revenues, more than what was budgeted this past year, and also more than the prior 2 years. And we're also starting to receive a larger amount of PEG access revenues. PEG is the public, educational, and governmental access cable channels that we operate, and revenues that are dedicated for the equipment and capital purposes for maintaining that system. And also, without going into too much detail, but departmental revenues for every department, building department, planning department, DPW, police department, recreation, and even the personnel office that handles the insurance or recoveries for the stop loss. We have over $330,000 more in departmental revenues than what was budgeted this past year. And also the court fines and forfeitures from parking tickets and local law violations were about $105,000 more than budgeted, which was about 25% of the revenue estimate. So overall, revenue-wise, it was a very good year. And with the unexpected appropriations that were discussed last week, we should be in a good position when we meet with Moody's Financial Services or Moody's Investor Services this year for our annual bond rating. But I also wanted to bring up a very important issue and sort of a refresher on some of the things that's happened last year. The board had appropriated fund balance in the budget like we do every year. This past year was $634,000, and we had also proposed to the board that they appropriate fund balance instead of issuing serial bonds for the $200,000 for street paving projects this past year, some of the projects that Paul had talked about. And we had also had asked the board if they would authorize $211,000 for the engineering costs associated with the Broadway Bridge project that's going to be underway hopefully in the next couple of years, and also appropriated $19,000 for the Main and State Street engineering work. So it's a very good thing when you appropriate fund balance, be it in the budget or for special capital projects, and then to have the excess revenues come in or unexpended appropriations to replenish fund balance so that you have it available for next year's budget or for future capital projects or unanticipated expenditures. And finally, I just wanted to mention on the water and sewer funds, we didn't quite achieve the revenue amounts that were in the budget. We were at 99% in the water fund and 95% in the sewer fund. This past year, we had wanted to implement a excess water surcharge for high water users. After the budget was adopted, we did modify the formula somewhat, so we didn't bring in as much revenues, but I think it actually, talking about it, had the effect of having some of the large water customers reduce their water usage and be more water conservative viewpoint in terms of trying to not waste water, which is something very important for the village these days. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Director of Planning and Development, Lynn Brooks Abney.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. As you heard earlier, thank you, Trustee Bazemore. As you'll recall, we're doing we're currently engaged in a housing assessment of the village, and on March 6th, we held 2 public listening sessions and several targeted focus groups, which included community groups, real estate brokers, developers, bankers, and lenders. And on March 22nd, the consultant presented his draft findings to this board at a work session. Excuse me. This Sunday, April 23rd, we're going to have a we're going to have another meeting, a third meeting. This meeting is open to anyone in the village who wants to participate. And while we recognize that Sunday is a day of worship for some, we've taken pains to schedule the meeting to fit into the schedule of church services around the village. The format of this meeting is very informal, and it's focused mainly on a multilingual presentation of data with the hopes that it'll help illuminate key housing issues while revealing conditions that are not easily discernible from the data. Additionally, this meeting was designed as a drop-in so that whether the individual attends at 12:30 or at 2:30 in the afternoon, the same experience will be had, and we hope that everyone will plan to join us on Sunday afternoon. With respect to Resolution I on the agenda tonight to establish a capital project for fiscal year 2017 for an affordable housing for the CDBG Program Award. For the last year, we've been working closely with IFCA on the grant of $295,845 that the village received from New York State CDBG funds as part of the 2015 New York State CDBG Competitive Housing Round. These funds will be used towards the renovation of two properties, 19 Hamilton Avenue, which is a 3-family building, and 4951 State Street, which is a 4-family building. All of these units will be will be affordable once they're renovated. And as required by New York State, we have recently advertised earlier this month for bids for contractors. The bids will be received until 12 noon on the 26th of April. And we are slowly moving towards commencement of the renovations on these two properties. And this resolution is specifically to establish a capital project, which will allow us to draw down the funds from the state and pay any of the associated bills. We're also working really closely with the town and Newcastle on an IMA on a bike plan. The goal is to develop a cohesive network of trails and that links the commercial centers along the bike lanes in the Ossining area that include both the town and the village and also the Newcastle area. And the ultimate goal is to connect the Ossining train station, downtown business districts in downtown Ossining, the North State Road, the hamlet of Millwood. And there's also a goal to connect the local open space areas, including the T-Town area, Gedney Park, the Croton Aqueduct, and the trail, the North County Trailway, and to also promote this area for tourist destinations, since we have the Sing Sing Museum planned for and the Bethany Arts Center. And the hope is that this trail will help to bolster economic activity and tourism in the general area. Just a brief update on Harbor Square. Of the 19 affordable units at Harbor Square, 18 of them are currently occupied, and IFCA is currently working diligently with the village and Harbor Square to fill the last remaining 2-bedroom apartment with qualified people that are currently on the list. So hopefully shortly they'll all be filled. Just to let you know that our next planning board meeting is scheduled for April 25th, which is this coming Tuesday. We have an upcoming HPC meeting on Monday, May 8th, and our next zoning board meeting is scheduled for May 9th. Thank you.
Director of Personnel, Linda McMahon.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. I will be conducting the annual required safety training on May 4th and May 11th. The training will be approximately for 70 employees from DPW, Parks, Recreation, Water, and Building Maintenance. Employees are required to attend one full day to cover mandated safety topics, which include, but not limited to, hazard communication, right to know. This training reinforces the need for employees to be aware of the materials they work with. It raises awareness of identified risks associated with the material, and employees are required to know where and how to find the information on their safety data sheets before they're working with any chemical or material. And the purpose of this is, should an unexpected exposure occur, it's critical to identify what's being used for proper medical care to be administered. Excuse me, I'm just still getting hoarse here. Personal protective equipment. An evaluation of department-specific personal protective equipment is made. A review of the safety sheets is completed, and safety equipment supplies are identified during the evaluation to ensure that employees continue to have the proper safety equipment for the work they are performing. Safety equipment, such as gloves, goggles, earplugs, hard hats, and respirators, are specific to the types of work being performed. Also included in personal protective equipment training is the identification of loud equipment requiring use of hearing protection and identifying job duties requiring respirators. These are jobs that use materials with potential irritants or harmful vapors. Employees are fit tested and undergo a medical evaluation to ensure they are capable of wearing a respirator face mask when performing this type of work. Lockout tagout. Understanding the requirement to de-energize, lock, or lock out equipment while working on it, such as vehicles, heavy equipment, or small engines, that can pose danger to the employees if left energized, and most importantly, to tag it, which prevents equipment from, that's being worked on having another employee that doesn't know someone's working on it to re-energize it and cause injury. Bloodborne pathogens. This training provides protocols to follow for employees identified as being at risk for exposure to bodily fluids in the performance of routine tasks. Exposure can occur via puncture wounds, broken waistlines, trash receptacles, etc. Offering hepatitis B series vaccinations to employees identified to be at risk is a requirement, and the village works cooperatively with Phelps Hospital to administer the hepatitis B series on site as a convenience to employees. This is just a short summary of some of the many topics that will be covered in the upcoming training. Training goes beyond just the training day. It's reinforced that safety begins with each person every day they're at work. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Building Inspector Joe Agustinelli.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. The building department will soon begin implementing operating permits as required by the New York State Law Part 1203. These permits are required for businesses of assembly that have an occupant load of 100 or more, such as a church or some restaurants, and for businesses that manufacture, handle, or store hazardous materials, such as a gasoline station, mechanic shops, auto body repair shops, fuel storage facilities. Fire inspection will be performed to ensure that all the fire safety requirements are completed as per the 2015 International Fire Code and that they're installed and operational. This additional information with regard to this New York State law concerning the operating permits, along with a download attachment of the application, will soon be on the Village of Ossining Building Department website. All the businesses that fall into this high hazard category, or churches or organizations or restaurants that have an assembly of 100 occupants or more, will soon be receiving a notice from the building department requesting that they contact us to schedule for an appointment for these required fire inspections. There are approximately about 60 businesses and organizations in the Village of Ossining that require these operating permits. The permits are issued on a yearly basis, and there will be an annual fee for these permits. Second, the new chapter in the Village of Ossining Code for sanitation violations will soon be approved. Code enforcement will be enforcing the chapter of this code. There will be a ticket issued on the spot for any violation when it's observed. This will eliminate the process of issuing an order to remedy and then to follow up with a court appearance ticket, which obviously is a lengthy process and is ineffective. This procedure will help to gain compliance with regard to sanitation issues in a quick fashion. Information concerning the new chapter will soon be also put on the building department website for more information for businesses and residents. Recently, it's also been brought to my attention that there have been concerns from the public with regard to the construction project at 80 Main Street. This is the location where the Elks Lodge originally stood. People have asked if the project had stopped or if and when the building would be ready for an occupancy. The current building permit actually will expire within the next week. The construction has taken more time than what was originally anticipated. The permit was valid for 18 months with a 6-month extension which was granted, but yet the construction's continued. I spoke today with the developer's job site foreman today. He informed me that the delays were due to some weather issues for the past winter and the fact that the location of the building on the site and the distance from the public street made the connections for utility service a little difficult to install. They had some obstacles to overcome. They're in the process of submitting new insurances and a new permit application to obtain a new permit. They also will be applying for, reapplying to the Architectural Review Board for some aesthetic changes that were done that were not originally in the original approvals. The developer is estimating that the project should be completed by November of this year. We are also currently working on replacing all of our permit applications, including building permit, electrical permit, plumbing permit, and sign permit applications because they're outdated and request information that are not really required for these permits, and they do not have information on them that actually are required. Many of the applicants are confused on how to fill out these applications, and hopefully this will make it more public friendly and alleviate the problems for the applicants. The new forms are currently being completed and will be also on the website and can be downloaded. And last, to just add to Stuart's things on the foils, we've put in a procedure now where I think we all have gotten it together with how they can be approved. And I can sign off on these FOIL requests immediately if I'm in the office so that people can get information. Especially if they're asking for just a couple of items that can be done while they wait. If they're larger requests, obviously we have to gather the information to get it ready for them, but we're normally getting this done now within days or a week. And if there is any issues with them which require more information, whether they have some legal issues, we can quickly discuss that with Stuart and process what they need quicker. So hopefully this will alleviate that problem and people will be getting the requests much more quicker than they have in the past.
Thanks. That's really important to be able to speed up the FOIL process. I know is a frustrating time when people are looking for information, so I'm pleased to have been able to figure out a way to have that streamlined. You want to comment on it, Stuart?
No, Joe's correct, and it will help immensely. What's done is when the department now gets a FOIL request, it's immediately copied to me. It's also sent to Mary Ann's office so that they can send out the acknowledgement letter. But if someone is simply looking for property information, we're in a position to hopefully get that to them fairly quickly, if not while they're there, which will cut down the time. If some larger files are asked for, we invite the person to come in, see what's in the file if they want it, and then we can tell them how much the copying fees will be so that we can lessen the period of time for them to get the documents.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
So I actually do have a couple questions. Sorry. So you mentioned 80 Main Street. That was modular system being done, so there was components into that design that was changed?
Yeah, there were just some aesthetic things, like the original one showed a little dormer on one side of the roof that's not there now, and there was some difference in the placement of some windows and doors. So we had told them a little while back that you're going to have to go back to the Board of Architecture Review to have them update on some of those aesthetic changes. They didn't immediately apply to do that, but again today they said that part of the process that they will be doing with taking out the new permit will be also filing to get back onto the board so they can get that, get that completed and updated before they're ready to get a certificate of occupancy at the end.
So no construction is going to take place until they're finalized with the architecture review process?
Well, the building is up because it was a modular. It's there. But they have to get that straightened out with them.
But
And
they
they
won't
did
continue doing the work until they go through the architecture review process.
We haven't stopped them on it because basically what they're doing right now is site work.
You just said that the permit is going to expire within a week or so.
Right, which they're applying. They have a couple of days left. They have to get everything in to continue.
Thank you.
Hopefully they can do it quickly. They said they were going to do that within the next couple of days.
Always do.
Only go by what they say and we'll react and see what happens.
Thank you.
Do we have any organization announcements?
Guess we covered it all.
Okay, we'll move into village board resolutions. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board on any of the resolutions tonight?
Good evening. My name is John Van Steen. I live at 78 South Highland Avenue. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce. Our group, which consists of members of the Board of Directors of the Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce and members of the Historic Preservation Commission, members of the Ossining business community, and many, many citizens of Ossining are and have been opposed to the Village Board's stance on a traffic circle in our historic downtown. We led the petition drive on the permissive referendum, and we will lead the drive to continue the challenge by legal action, and more specifically the filing of an Article 78. Trustee Casada, you said at the March 8th Village Board meeting that even though the traffic circle was your idea, that you could not support it due to the public sentiment against it. This past weekend in writing, you restated that view. Trustee Levin, I have heard that you were to say that you would not be able to support the traffic circle if 1,500 people voted against it. For the record, it should be noted that I could not confirm that with the online meetings. But even Marianne Roberts' most conservative estimate of valid petition signatures is greater than that, and valid under petition requirements is or not. As a practical matter, over 2,700 residents took the opportunity to sign a document in opposition to the proposal. Trustee Codman, your position is perhaps the most puzzling of all, as you had expressed opposition to the concept of a traffic circle in downtown Ossining, as it was not in keeping with the comprehensive plan, the creation of which you played such a constructive and creative role. Yet, you have supported it ever since. And Mayor Gearty, your view is perhaps the most troubling of all, as you believe the traffic circle would be roundly defeated if put to a public referendum, and so refuse to even consider it when by law you are empowered to do so. But throughout this entire process, you have all expressed your appreciation of the community's engagement. Well, what is the community asking you to do? We're asking you to do the right thing for your constituents. This is your opportunity to correct your course. You know that passage of Resolution N on today's agenda will promote you, the Village Board, to lead agency on the construction of the traffic circle at the historic Five Corners. Additionally, with this resolution, you grant a negative declaration of significance regarding the Main and Spring Street intersection and support your own assertion that there will be little or no negative impact in our historic downtown. This is where you must do the right thing. This is where you must vote no. As I'm sure you're aware, the passage of the negative declaration starts a clock ticking for legal action, and more specifically the filing of an Article 78 against the village. After consultation with attorneys, we understand that expenses associated with litigation would run between $10,000 and $30,000. We are ready, willing, and able to undertake this challenge and lead the mobilization effort against a yes decision. We will be soliciting affected business and property and business owners in the historic Five Corners with legal standing. We will initiate a crowdfunding site at GoFundMe.com to establish the funding mechanism necessary to assist with our anticipated legal battle with you, our village government. We will be asking for donations of $10, $20, and $50, and believe that if all 2,700 village that all 2,700 signatories make such minimal contribution, we will have more than enough to cover all of our legal expenses. Additionally, we will also be prepared to return these funds to the donors if those funds are not expended or if they are no longer needed. Lastly, all should know that if you keep on the same path, the village will also incur a legal expense burden commensurate with the $10,000 to $30,000 figure for which we are preparing ourselves. Be it known that
Thank
this
you
will
very
be...
much. Thank you very much, John. I think we got the gist of what you're saying. If you have that in writing, could you please share it with the clerk?
Would someone like to step up and continue where I left off?
John Girolamo, 11 Claremont Road, Austin, New York, also on the Board of Directors of the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce. Lastly, all should know that if you keep on the same path, you, the village, will also incur a legal expense burden commensurate with the $10,000 to $30,000 figure for which we are preparing ourselves. Be it known that this will be your choice and your responsibility, and that you, with your very own lack of action, will be burdening the Village of Austin taxpayers with yet another unnecessary burden. You have a choice. This is your moment of decision. Vote no on Resolution N. Thank you.
Mayor, trustees, good evening. My name is John Freed. I live at 22 Ryder Road in the town and village of Ossining. I'd like to talk about this traffic circle that's contemplated for the center of the village. A roundabout, I view a roundabout as something that you would, if you were going to Downton Abbey, on the roads going there, you might go on a roundabout. But a roundabout is not something that you intend, I guess, to put in the village of Ossining. When my wife and I came to Ossining about 45 years ago, the village fathers, and they were all fathers at the time, thought it was in the village's interest to demolish pretty much every building on the south side of Main Street. Here, almost 50 years later, we're still living with that decision. Now, at the time, I believe that the village fathers knew what they were doing. They had the best interests of the village in mind. And I and many other members and residents of the village were silent. Well, I believe that all of you have the best interests of the village in mind. And I believe that some of you believe this roundabout or traffic circle is in the best interests of the village. But what you haven't done, and which I would urge you to do, is you haven't persuaded the community that this traffic circle is in the best interest of the village. And what's somewhat disheartening is that it would appear that those people who make their living in the village of Ossining as merchants, as storekeepers, as owners of property are very concerned that you're taking away their livelihood. I would ask, instead of voting no on Proposition N, I would ask that you table that resolution and spend 6 months to a year trying to persuade the folks who are part of the Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce, the Ossining Historic Preservation Commission, and the Ossining business community that this traffic circle is in the best interest of our community. And if you do that, you'll have people here urging you to pass this resolution. But it doesn't have to be passed today. I'm just concerned that 50 years from now, when I'm no longer here, some of you will be my age, that somebody is going to put in this traffic circle a tombstone which says Village Downtown Business Center. RIP. I'd hate to see that happen. I would urge each of you to think about the future, to persuade the community, which I don't think you've done, to persuade the community that what you propose to do is in the best interest of our community. And if you do that, I'll come back in 6 months to a year and urge you to vote for this traffic circle, roundabout. Thank you.
Kaya Gam, 55 Walton Road, also member of the Historic Preservation Commission. Letter to Board of Trustees, Mayor Garrity, Board of Directors, Village Interim Manager, and Council. As mentioned at the April 6th community meeting at the library, which I thought was incredibly successful, the Ossining Historic Preservation Commission also stated that we did not think that the answers the village board and its consultants provided in the full environmental assessment form, which is the part of the SECRA, adequately describes the Five Corners intersection. The HPC responded to the village FEAF with an in-depth review and concluded that the decision should be to adopt a positive declaration and go through a proper environmental impact study. Our extensive response with backup documentation went out via certified mail on April 8th and was received by the Village Board of Trustees on April 12th, by the Planning Department on April 18th. It was also sent to the DEC, to SHPO, to the Department of Transportation, to the County Planning, and the County Department of Environmental Protection, and they also received it in that time frame between the 11th and the 18th. On April 12th, that same night, which is last Wednesday, the board discussed and decided to become lead agency for the SECRA review. There was no mention at that meeting that you had received our massive package. No mention that we had that you received it, that you didn't have a chance to really read it because it just got into your mailbox. I would like for you to acknowledge that you have received it, that you may have been able to leaf through some of our answers at some point before tonight's decision. So, let me sum it up. The unfortunate conclusion of the FEAF is that it's riddled with omissions, errors, and other misconceptions that ultimately skews the nature of the Five Corners intersection and downplays the important recreational value the intersection and surrounding areas currently offer the community. In the resolution N, number 4, basically says that it's not in contradiction to the comprehensive plan. Number 8 and number 5 says there is no recreational impact and is not mentioning Market Square, just to take a few of the notes that you can see in today's agenda. However, Market Square will be gone. Period. The seating area moved to the other side of the street as a bonus to Main Street Deli. But the gathering space for events, gone. By the way, Market Square was completed in 1998 with grants and funds from Projects for Public Spaces. Even they say that it's not the best project they've had, but it was a project granted with public funds. And the Downtown Ossining Historic District, which was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1988 and locally landmarked in 2012, are distinct features of downtown Ossining. The Village Board's recommendation not to have a full environmental impact study and its decision to adopt a negative declaration ultimately implies that you don't think there is any impact to speak of by losing Market Square and creating an enlarged intersection out of character with the historic fabric of downtown. Thank you.
Good evening. Joanne Tall, 4 Liberty Street, and member of the HPC, the Historic Preservation Commission. As Kaya had said, the HPC has reviewed the FEAF rather extensively, and we have made measured and careful comments on that document, which I stated before. There are some incorrect answers to the form, which I guess allows a negative declaration. However, with considering all the comments we made, this, I feel, should be a positive declaration. And to go through resolution N here, number 4, how can this be considered consistent with the comprehensive plan? When the placement of a large roundabout, 110-foot diameter, would negate many of the other initiatives set forth in the comprehensive plan. It's consistent with one little aspect of the comprehensive plan, but negates rather large parts of it by its placement. Also, number 5, the village board states here that it has considered the verbal and written comments of the HPC. I guess I'm not seeing it. Also, number 5, that the roundabout would be aesthetically appealing when compared to the existing signalized intersection. Largely because it has new materials. I have a problem with assigning aesthetics to a roundabout with a budget of $500,000, when the one at Vassar cost $6 million and the one at Glen Falls cost $9 million. At that price of $500,000, I don't think you're going to get sort of shopping mall finishes and not something that's of a quality and comparable to our historic district. Number 8. I believe Kaya addressed this, that the Market Square stage, it says it has no major impact on open space or recreational resources. I don't see it. Market Square has a stage, it has large seating areas, it has tables where people play checkers, it has trees, it has flag posts for American flag and the New York State flag. It has an information kiosk for the village. It has a lot of public amenities which will be taken away. And number 13, I just don't understand. It's saying the planning board has considered reasonably. It has, in that statement, there's no value statement towards this. Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Ray O'Hanlon. I live in Independence Place. I'm not a member of any organization, just someone who has looked and considered this roundabout proposal, including looking at a couple of reports in the Gazette newspaper and a couple of illustrations, one of which I was rather taken aback by because it looked like there were a couple of golf carts going around the roundabout. And I approached this in terms of road safety. I learned to drive in a country with a lot of rivers and mountains and lakes and a lot of roundabouts, a hell of a lot of roundabouts. And roundabouts require a certain kind of driving. They require drivers to concede ground. Now, even with traffic lights, and having lived in Ossining for 23 years, I see that a lot of people don't even consider red lights as a reason to stop. So I am concerned about the idea of a roundabout in a very small area, relatively, with a very heavy traffic flow and also a mixed traffic flow. Now, whatever about golf carts, I can't help but get out of my mind the idea of two guys in Dodge Ram trucks who take the ads on television, literally, heading into the roundabout at the same time. Or a commuter who's late for a train, and an older driver who may be traveling slowly and may not be quite as quick off the mark as he or she might once have been. Or an 18-wheeler and a cyclist. And you consider all these possible permutations and combinations in this relatively small space. Two of the streets come up with hills at the end. There are buildings. There are blinds in this place. And traffic lights stop the traffic. The roundabout, maybe, maybe not. So I would be interested in hearing the board's views, specifically from a road safety point of view, rather than just an aesthetic point of view or the management of space, because I think this is an area that perhaps hasn't been discussed or explored enough. Statistics, for example, the number of collisions at that intersection in the last 5 years with traffic lights, and perhaps looking ahead, trying to imagine potentially the number of collisions that would occur with a roundabout where there are no traffic lights. So I'd like to hear more on the road safety aspects of the plan. I'm open-minded with regard to the actual roundabout. I don't have a position for or against it, but the imagination rolls a little bit, and I'm just concerned from simply the road safety aspect of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Alexis Cole, 109 Charter Circle. I'm a cyclist, I'm an environmentalist, and I am a historic preservationist. And when I recently moved here this August, and I noticed the lawn signs, and I thought, Five Corners preservation, this is something I should care about. And I asked around about it. And then I discovered more about the issue. And I'm sorry if I repeat any of my former comments. I'll try not to. But I'm representing a minority of voices who come to meetings. And that is people who think that the board should make decisions and do the job that we appointed them to do. The signatures that were collected, as some of my neighbors told me, were collected under the premise that this was going to allow people to vote for the roundabout. We all want a voice for change. We all want to have, feel like we have a say in things. And I won't repeat the anecdote, but I have personal experience with getting those kinds of signatures myself. And I don't believe that the signatures that were collected, even if they were all Ossining valid voters, were people who were in opposition to the roundabout. They were just people who wanted information. And I don't feel that, I feel that that's a very trumped up number, and given information, those people would not necessarily have signed. Science is real, and I'm going to the march on Saturday in New York because I believe in science. And what you've done is collected information over the last year and a half from engineers, from state representatives who are experts in the field, and you have interpolated that information to make a clear decision about what is best. I just attended the meeting at which I did not see many other people who are in this room opposing it, where we went and walked the site and were advised by engineers. Some of people were there. And I was able to get information then from the engineers, one of who said that with the roundabout, we're going to get that intersection. I know it's not an intersection with a roundabout, but it'll have a grade of an A with a grade of a B at rush hour. If we put a traditional intersection there with lights, it gets a grade of a B with a C at rush hour. So the roundabout isn't just some fancy idea that you all came up with to make it look prettier because it was a whim. It's an idea that you've researched deeply. And I hope that politics and public opinion of loud voices won't dissuade you from doing the job that you've been doing. Please stay the course and keep working in the effort that you've put forth. Because I know that this lawsuit that people behind me are talking about might be expensive, but so will going back to square one. And so will lawsuits that come in when people get into accidents in that intersection that could have been prevented by the roundabout. It's a very safe decision. It's good for the community. And I know a lot of people would support it I know a lot of people would be here if they even thought that this was an issue, but people aren't aware of that it needs support. So I think they look charming also. And then Market Square, I heard, is going to be turned into parking during the day and could be used as public space, which is very important to me as an artist, as a musician, during the weekends. And I just want to say that you guys have shown a lot of vision in coming up with this creative solution. And also to the detractors of the traffic circle, I just want to say it's just a traffic circle. We're going to get over it. We're going to learn to drive it. It's going to be great.
Any further comments on tonight's resolutions? Perhaps when we get up to resolution N, we may want to have some comments or insights, because I think there are a lot of questions that were raised, many of which have been addressed before, but some of which are unique to tonight's resolution. So,
Happy to.
thank you.
So then we'll move into our board resolutions this evening. Letter A, approval of minutes, April 5th, 2017, regular meeting. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossing hereby approves the minutes of the April 5th, 2017, regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board, Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter B, approval of voucher detail report. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossing hereby approves the voucher detail report dated April 19, 2017, in the amount of $685,539.60. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board, Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter C, Fire Department Tax Exemptions 2018. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossing hereby approves the following firemen's tax exemption for the 2018 year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board, Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So we just skipped a page and a half then, huh?
Yeah, could
Very
I
nice.
ask a question, or?
Yeah, you can still ask a question, of course.
Could I get an explanation from the village manager, really for the public, what we're talking about when it comes to a particular item, the tax exemption? How that works?
I'll introduce what I know, and then maybe I'll ask Tom to join me for some more details if they're still required. All the members listed on their respective memberships here in their volunteer fire department companies are active members that reside in properties listed next to their names, and because they are members of the volunteer fire department, they are afforded I'm not sure a percentage, but they are afforded a tax reduction on their village tax property bill.
And does every village do that, or is that just an Ossining thing? Do you know? I'm asking you because you know the numbers.
Perhaps Tom.
Or
Tom,
maybe-
why don't you speak to this, Tom? Thank you.
I don't know much additional about this, but it's not required in all villages. I believe that each village that wishes to participate needs to adopt the resolution, and it's probably in the village code as a allowable exemption.
I mean, I happen to like this a lot, but I don't think, I sometimes think that we don't explain things to the public of what we're doing. So this is, we have a volunteer fire department, a significant one, and this is an incentive for the work that they do, because as we've learned in upstate New York, there's a real shortage of both volunteer and also paid, and it's become a real problem. And so for us, this is a great thing, but I just want to make sure people understand what we're doing here, and that we are, I don't know if I want to call it an incentive or a thank you It's one of those two things for the fire, for all the volunteers that we have. I always want to say firemen, but I know there are women. And that it's something that we choose to do. So I just want to put that on the record, so when somebody looks this up, they'll know some of the good stuff that's going on in this village. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just speak to it briefly since I'm liaison to the fire department, and I mean, this is, I mean, it certainly is an incentive. It's not a large amount of money. I think it's something that is part of a larger thank you to you know, the largest volunteer fire department in the state of New York, one in which continues to grow and continues to serve both the town and the village very well. If we had to pay for our fire department, we would be in a world of trouble. So I think that at the end of the day, you make a good point, Trustee Levin, that, you know, this is a very nice small offering that we can give to individuals that, you know, are willing to protect people and property, and that's why we do that on an annual basis.
Okay, Resolution D, Finance Budget Modification FYE 2016 Budget Mod from Contingency Accounts. Resolved, the 2016 General Fund and Sewer Fund budgets are modified to appropriate monies for unanticipated and previously deferred maintenance and repair expenditures during the year, aggregating $167,035, and for fire department apparatus repairs of $15,358 to be funded from the general fund contingency account in the amount of $168,218, and from the sewer fund contingency account in the amount of $14,175 as follows. Do I have a motion?
So, second.
On the board. Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter E, Finance Budget Modification, FYE 2016 Budget Transfers between Appropriation Accounts. Resolved that the 2016 General, Water, and Sewer Funds budget are modified to transfer monies between various appropriation accounts for unincorporated expenditures during the year as follows. And be it further resolved that the individual department heads are authorized to balance their departmental budgets within item categories, example, within 100 personal service accounts, or within 400 to 500 contractual accounts, or between item categories, example, between 100 personnel services accounts, 200 equipment accounts, and or 400 to 500 contractual accounts, subject to approval of the village treasurer or the village manager. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board. Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter F, Finance Budget Modification, 2016 Budget Modification to appropriate excessive program revenues. Resolved, the 2016 General Water and Sewer Funds budget are modified to appropriate excess program revenues passed through grant monies of $30,000 and insurance recoveries aggregating $198,827 for program expenditures and employee benefits expenditures as follows. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board. Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter G, Finance Budget Modification, FYE 2016 Budget Modification for Section 8 Housing Program Fund. Resolved, the 2016 Section 8 Housing Program Fund budget is modified to appropriate excessive HUD revenues received and to transfer available appropriations as follows. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board. Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter H, Finance Budget Modification, 2016 Budget Transfer for General Liability Claim Funds, whereas the Village Management Plan for providing additional financial resources for general liability claims internal service fund includes use of insurance recoveries, revenues, and recommended use of unexpended excess appropriations in the general water and sewer funds, and whereas the Village Management has recommended that up to $154,271 in surplus and available fund balance as of December 31st, 2016 be appropriated to increase the cash reserves in the General Liability Claims Internal Service Fund pursuant to calculations and projections prepared by the village's actuary, provided that there are no additional year-end expenditure accruals. Now therefore be it resolved, the 2016 General Water and Sewer Funds budgets are modified to appropriate and transfer available surplus fund balance to the General Liability Claims Internal Service Fund to provide for additional cash reserves for estimated general liability self-insured claims liabilities as follows. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board. Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter I.
I'm actually going to recuse myself from this next resolution for the appearance of impropriety. IFCA is a recipient of this grant, so.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, letter I, Finance Budget Modification, Establish Capital Project for FY 2017 for Affordable Housing CDBG Program Award. Whereas in January 2016, the village was awarded a New York State Community Development Block Grant Program Award in the amount of $295,845 to assist IFCA Housing Network as the grant subrecipient in addressing the village's affordable housing needs. And whereas the Village Board of Trustees by resolutions dated March 9, 2016 accepted the grant and dated January 25, 2017 designated the subject properties to be rehabilitated under the program, and whereas the village needs to establish a capital project to account for project costs and grants proceeds in connection with the CDBG program award, now therefore be it resolved, a capital project is established in fiscal year 2017 to account for the CDBG Affordable Housing Program Award as follows. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board. Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter J, Finance Budget Modification 2016 modification attributable to LED street lighting services. Whereas by resolution adopted May 6, 2015, the Board of Trustees authorized the village manager to accept a proposal from and execute an agreement with Lumen Light Solutions, LLC of Yonkers, New York, for professional services in connection with the audit, inventory, installation, and purchase of LED luminaries at an estimated cost of $650,000, exclusive of interest, with the cost of said services and purchase to be funded from energy savings realized by the village. And whereas said energy savings became effective 2016 and aggregated an estimated $83,436 for the year. And whereas as of December 31st, 2016, Lumen Lighting Solutions had not as yet submitted all the inventory data to allow for the village to start paying for the installation and purchase of LED luminaries from the energy savings as provided by the agreement. Now therefore be it resolved, the treasurer is authorized to transfer said estimated energy savings of $83,436 to debt service fund as of December 31st, 2016 to be used for future payment of said installation and purchase LED luminaries, and be it further resolved, the 2016 general fund budget is modified to reflect said transfer of $83,436 to the debt service fund as follows. Do I have a motion?
Second.
On the board. Madam, does anybody want to comment on this? This is pretty exciting. I guess you talked about it a lot at the work session yesterday, what this
Well,
represents.
yeah, I mean,
Last week, thank you.
Paul mentioned it earlier, so.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter K, adoption of proposal local law number 2, 2017, revision to the village code of the Village of Ossining establishing a local code enforcement program. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining has been considering the adoption of proposed local law number 2, 2017, titled Revision to the Village Code of the Village of Ossining establishing a local code enforcement program. And whereas in accordance with the New York State law and the code of the Village of Ossining, and having provided all requisite notice, the Board of Trustees conducted a public hearing on March 15, 2017, at 7:30 p.m. at the Birdsall Fagan Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Ossining, New York, during which time the public had an opportunity to be heard regarding the proposed local law. And whereas, as the conclusion of the public hearing was closed, and whereas the proposed local law has been considered by the Board of Trustees, and it has been determined that there are no impediments to proceedings with the adoption of the local law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby adopts proposed local law number 2, 2017 as local law number 3, 2017, and directs that the said local law be filed and are distributed in accordance with applicable law. Do I have a motion?
So
Oh,
moved.
this is a roll call vote.
Why is it a roll?
We still have to
We
move,
still have
don't
to
we?
move the
Oh,
motion,
yes,
don't we?
do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And then,
But
do people want to comment before we vote? This
Yeah.
is a pretty exciting
Yeah.
law here.
Yeah.
Please, go right ahead, Deputy Mayor.
This is probably one of the more important pieces of legislation that's been passed by this board in long as I've lived here. Considering the ruckus of a traffic pattern, this will have a much larger impact on our village than any traffic pattern you could think of. This, my friends, is what I would call the hammer. This is a way that we are going to make sure that people are safe in their housing and that we have the instruments necessary to enforce safe housing and protect property in this village. I cannot reinforce this a lot. It's going to be a huge change for many people and many property owners and many renters in this village. And the building department has a big task ahead. And for those of you who watched the meeting last week, we have a lot of work to do. We've got new forms, we have new processes, we have new things that we have to put in place. But this is really important. And I am very pleased to vote in favor of this evening.
Ricky, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I think I said in the work session, which also gets videotaped, I always feel silly. We do the work session, then we do this part. But it's bar none, I think, one of the biggest things that's happened in this village for years, as John said so eloquently. I just think that in all parts of this village, code enforcement, that we now have policies, laws, legislation that gives us the tools to do what should have been done over the past decade and needs to continue to be done, is something that people have been asking us for quite a while. And I think it's going to, I don't think it's easy, but I am so optimistic that we're moving in the right direction. And this is a real big headline, a big story, and I appreciate all the people that have been involved in making sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. So not only Corporation Council, but all the folks that are involved in giving opinions and different areas of the country and different places that we've looked at for what policies are in place, how others deal with it. It's been a real journey, and I think this is just a huge deal that needs a nice, as John had said, it's a big headline for this community.
I'll just echo the comments of my colleagues. One thing I can say is that safe housing is important to the whole board. This is not a contentious issue. This is one thing that we all agree with. I'm glad that we finally have the tools, and hopefully in coming years we'll see the results of this work.
Thank you. I want to thank the board. I definitely want to thank our Corporation Councilor Stuart Grahan to lead part of this process. I remember being part of this board, concern that I had, how do we enforce something that is something for a large community that we have. There's a lot of the municipalities that have very similar or have adopted the same law that we have. This is a task for, as John mentioned, for our building department that we're gonna think there's some additional implementation that we're gonna have to do, that I know our village manager and head departments and the building department itself are working on it, but that's something that is common, and I think it's gonna be something good for our community as a safety issue. But I'm really happy and I'm glad to see that it's happening now, so thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Bazemore's sentiment that this is something that this board is entirely unified on. But that in itself is unusual. Not that we're unified. That does happen on actually a lot of things. But that any village board is stepping up in a unified manner to proactively address code enforcement issues, particularly related to safe housing in our community. It's one of the reasons I ran for mayor. It's one of the 3 core goals that I had in seeking this position. And no previous board had any statements even resembling what you are hearing today. What we heard about overcrowded housing was there was a perception of overcrowded housing. And if people acknowledged that it actually existed, and I'm talking about elected and appointed officials from past administrations, then what they said is, well, you know, it's not unique to Ossining. Well, it's not unique to Ossining. But we heard from Kevin Dworka last month that our little village represents at least 10% of the overcrowded units in the whole county. It may not be unique to Ossining, and we may be unified today, but the fact that we are taking this step and we are dealing head on with the fact that we have serious safety concerns in our housing it's a really big deal. That's why all 5 of us are talking about it. And just for the record, the 3 things I ran on were help village government work better, to proactively address overcrowded housing issues, and to redevelop and revitalize our downtown. Those first 2, we are well on our way to making great progress. The departments that were needed to really be stronger and run better than they ever had are, in order to be able to implement this program, our village management department, legal department, and our building department. We have made credible changes in how those departments are managed and the personnel that is moving them forward. And I'm grateful to be part of a board that is unified on this. And without all of the changes that have taken place and without this incredible dedication of resources, not just from elected officials, we push what we think is a good policy and makes sense for the community, but for the departments that are making it happen and that have the ability and the capacity and the intellect and the dedication to make it happen, I am really grateful to be part of that. And I didn't mean to leave out police and fire because they're an integral part of this as well. You guys were in pretty good shape. All right, so with that, any more comments before we turn it back over to the clerk? Madam Clerk.
So this is a roll call vote. Trustee Bazemore?
Aye.
Trustee Codman?
Aye.
Trustee Cazada?
Aye.
Trustee Levin?
Aye.
And Mayor Garrett.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll move into Resolution L, resolution in support of the Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce sponsored farmers market for 2017. Whereas with the support of the Village of Ossining, the Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce sponsors a farmers market that heretofore has occupied portions of the municipal parking lot on the east side of Spring Street adjoining Market Square. And whereas the Chamber and Zelsman Associate Incorporated, DBA Down to Earth Market, have presented to the village the operating plan for 2017 for Downtown Earth Farmers Market in Ossining for the period of April 22nd, 2017 through December 30th, 2017. And whereas representatives for the Chamber and Down to Earth Market appeared before the village's Board of Trustees as a noticed work session on April 12, 2017, during which time it was discussed by officials of the village that the location for the farmer's market may be moved from the aforementioned municipal parking lot on the east side of Spring Street adjoining Market Square to municipal parking lot number 5 located across from Market Square adjacent to the post office to accommodate a possible intersection reconstruction project. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby supports the efforts of the Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce to sponsor a farmer's market in downtown Ossining and authorizes the interim village manager to enter into any and all agreements with the chamber in furtherance of the proposed farmer's market, with such agreements being subject to review and approval of the Corporation Council. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board, Madam Clerk.
Oh, I'd like to make
Yes,
a
please.
brief comment. This is a renewal of an agreement that we've had for many years, and the farmers market has been part of our downtown for a long time. So I'm glad that we could renew this again, and I'm thankful for the chamber for their support of the farmers market. And I also wanted to mention that the farmers market will be opening on Earth Day down at the park. So just wanted to sneak that in there.
Yes, for the first time, they will be down on the waterfront.
Mayor,
Yes,
may I?
please.
Also, with regard to the location, there was a presentation at the last week's work session with regard to some of the possible changes in venue. We're committed to facilitate a venue for them for the reasons that Trustee Codman just mentioned. So whether it's on one side of the street or the other, we'll make it as accommodating as possible, as we always have. I did want to point out that the conversation relative to possibly bringing it out onto the street, after some follow-up conversations with the business owners, specifically on Spring Street and the Chase Bank management, the logistics were not going to work out on the Saturday morning for which they have operating hours. So we can't provide that venue, but we're going to do everything we can to make either side of the street, wherever we end up this summer with the farmers market, as an appropriate, enjoyable experience as we can.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter M, declaration of certain village-owned vehicles as surplus. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby declares the following vehicles as surplus equipment and authorizes their disposal in accordance with the New York State law by sale or otherwise as is. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, no. Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter N, resolution declaring lead agency status for Village of Ossining Board of Trustees and negative declaration of significance for Main Street and Spring Street intersection project, including construction of a roundabout. Whereas the intersection of Main Street, Spring Street, Central Avenue is currently a four-way traffic signal-controlled intersection, single-lane approaches are provided on the eastbound and westbound Main Street approaches and the Central Avenue southbound approach. And whereas the Spring Street northbound approach is furnished with one through left turn lane and one separate right turn lane, parking is permitted on each side of the Main Street approaches. And whereas Central Avenue is intersected from the north by Brandreth Street, which is in close proximity to the intersection, this approach is also traffic signal controlled. And whereas the Village of Ossining Village Board of Trustees is proposing a roundabout at the intersection which will consist of a single lane for counterclockwise circulation, the four approaches will be flared to allow for the placement of splitter islands with crosswalks. And whereas the circulation road will be supplemented with slightly raised color contrast apron that will support truck loading surrounding a landscaped central island. Yield signs will be located on each approach to the roundabout. And whereas Central Avenue and Brandreth Street will each be stop sign controlled at the intersection. And whereas the proposed of the roundabout is to improve safety by decreasing the number of potential vehicle conflicts, provide continuous traffic flow, thereby reducing delays, and to improve the aesthetics of the intersection by using appropriate hardscaping, landscaping, and lighting. And whereas the proposed auction includes reconfiguration of Market Square and its associated parking lot, which will result in a net increase of 8 off-street parking spaces. And whereas all streets and intersections involved in the project are owned and maintained by the Village of Ossining. And whereas all proposed work will take place on lands owned by the Village of Ossining. And whereas the subject intersection is located within or adjacent to the downtown Ossining Historic District and proximate to buildings listed on the New York State Register of Historic Places. And whereas given the site's proximity to historic resources, the Village Board of Trustees has preliminarily identified the proposed action as a Type 1 action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act. And whereas the Village Board of Trustees has prepared Parts 1 and 2 of the full environmental assessment form, and whereas it is the position of the Board of Trustees that it is the only involved permitting agency with jurisdiction, and all other applicable agencies are considered interested agencies and or require permits that are considered ministerial in nature and not subject to secret. And whereas on March 1st, 2017, the Board of Trustees declared its intent to serve as the lead agency and circulated the lead agency notice and agreement, Parts 1 and 2 of the EAF, and site plans and renderings to the interested agencies. And whereas after 30 days of mailing the lead agency agreement, no other involved agency was identified or objected to the Village Board of Trustees acting as a lead agency. And whereas comments were received from the Village of Ossining Historic Preservation Commission, an interested agency, and correspondence dated April 5th, 2017. Additionally, comments were received from the Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce and correspondence dated April 3rd, 2017. And whereas the Village Board of Trustees received correspondence from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, OPRHP, dated April 12th, 2017, which letter concludes that OPRHP has no archaeological concerns and finds that the proposed project will have no significant impact to historic resources. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Board of Trustees hereby declares itself the lead agency, and be it further resolved that the Village Board of Trustees has compared the proposed action with the criteria for determining significance listed under 6 NYCRR 617.7 and has determined that the proposed action will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. And be it further resolved that the Village Board of Trustees has considered all reasonably related long-term, short-term, direct, indirect, and cumulative environmental effects associated with the proposed action, including other simultaneous and subsequent actions. And be it further resolved that the Village Board of Trustees hereby issuance the attached negative declarations of significance. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I move to table.
I would, before we have a motion or any suggestion, considering the comments that were made during the public comments related to resolutions, I would ask for advice of counsel in the other room.
Fine.
That Trustee Codman was making a motion that we table Resolution N. Do we have a second?
Second.
Does anyone else want to comment on the board as to why we are tabling? Because we did obviously just have a conversation.
Sure, part of it for me, or for asking for the to table a measure, had to do with a number of the comments that were made tonight. I think that there's more documentation that I need to see. I need to review the Kellard Sessions response to the SECRA document. So I need to get a little more educated about the information that was there. I haven't had enough time to review and understand the Kellard Session responses. And you know, we've also been told that there's going to be a legal action taken if we move forward, and you know, I consider that something serious and something I don't take lightly.
Paul, now that we're tabling, we did a lot of conversations last week about timelines and this secret process going concurrent. So does the timeline of this roundabout or the bidding process change at all?
No, we're still going to maintain a parallel track with both processes, and that would include us receiving the contract documents for internal legal and technical review next week, and plan on putting those bid documents in the clerk's office for public bidding the first week in May, more specifically May 1st. That's the present schedule right now.
Thank you.
Motion?
No, I'd just say municipal government is by its nature very conservative and generally quite slow. And when presented with new information, it is wise to fully understand it. And so I'm pleased that my colleagues and I will have a week to thoroughly understand some of what we've heard tonight. Madam Clerk.
Do you have a motion to table? Oh, we got the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll move on to page 14, Resolution O. Resolution authorizing the interim village manager to enter into a license agreement with Judd Lau Contracting for use of 7 North Water Street to park vehicles from April 10th, 2017 through August 10th, 2017, wherefore the Village of Ossining and Judd Lau Contracting previously entered into a license agreement permitting access to village-owned property of Water Street to facilitate a project Judd Lau Contracting is performing on behalf of Metro North, and whereas Judd Lau Contracting requires the use of additional village-owned property for the purpose of parking vehicles, and whereas the village and Judd Lau Contracting have discussed the use of village-owned property at 7 North Water Street, which property would be used by Judd Lau Contracting for a limited period of time, not to exceed 4 months, to park vehicles, which vehicles would be accessed Monday through Friday only between the hours of 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., with the property being locked at 5 p.m. And whereas Judd Lau Contracting has agreed to use the village-owned property at 7 North Water Street just to park and access vehicles at a monthly license fee of $1,000. Now therefore be it resolved that the interim village manager is authorized to sign a license agreement with Judd Lau Contracting for the property at 7 North Water Street, subject to review and approval of Corporation Council. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a question. Is that the right amount, 1,000?
Yes. Right now, it's a monthly rate. It's anticipated to be a short term, and it's strictly for parking 5 subcontractor electric box vehicles. There's no
Oh.
material stored in place.
Okay.
It seemed fair and equitable, so for
All right.
this 5-month period, we'll receive $4,500 per month from Judd Law, and then when this ceases, we will go back to receiving the $3,500 per month from Judd Law
Okay.
for the balance of their contract life with Metro North. MTA, sorry.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Continuing business of the board. New business of the board.
We're good.
Visitor recognition.
Oh,
Is
goody.
there anyone here who wishes to address the board?
Speak just very briefly, and I will say thank you so much for tabling Resolution N. I would not take full credit for any of this, but we do at the Historic Preservation Commission, and Joanne and I have been working very hard to bring truth, data, and facts to the fore. And we're looking very much forward to going into the next stage with the board in discussion what's going to happen downtown. And I hope that it's not just the resolution, that it's not the threat alone of a lawsuit that has brought you to thinking and rethinking about this tabling this resolution. But I am just want to thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Good evening. Hope everyone had a great Passover and Easter. So I just wanted to comment on the successful St. Anne's Good Friday Stations of the Cross held last week. I marched in dress shoes, not a good idea, last week with about 1,000 people. And I just wanted to say that I think we've outgrown using side streets. I was almost touching people's doors that had about 30 feet of lawn in front of them. So I'm pretty surprised we didn't get any calls or complaints that hundreds of people were stepping on lawns and rocks and sidewalks and that were in their property. So it's an event that I'm so proud. I've been doing it now for the past 17 years. And it's something very unique to Ossining, something that I've encouraged the church to grow and invite, other communities. And just like, our fireworks and our fire department parade, events that have really become the cornerstone of our spring and summer seasons here in Ossining. I want to thank our police department because they've been pretty helpful with all the processions and especially that event. But I think it's time to relook expanding it and trying to find a way to get about 1,000 people within the streets and on people's lawns and properties. So thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments of general interest to the community? 3 minutes. Right. Madam Clerk.
Motion to adjourn into executive session for real property. Have a motion?
It's not just real property, though.
Oh, it's more?
It's real property, it's personnel involving appointments to particular positions and for pending litigation. Thank you.
I'll move.
Second.
On the board. Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And with that, we invite you to join us next week's work session, which will be the 26th of April, and we will be at 16 Croton Avenue. This meeting is adjourned to executive session.